Hello and welcome back to Dukascopy TV. Now in the studio I'm joined by Cheryl Hicks of the wealth management and impact investing company Quadia that specialises mostly in social and environmental projects. Cheryl, thank you very much for coming into the studio. Now, as I understand it, we're going to look at sustainable consumption, but just for the moment, as I understand it, there's a new policy in the EU at the moment on sustainable consumption. Can you just briefly tell me a little bit about this new initiative?
Sure. The sustainable consumption investment theme, as we're calling it, has gotten a large bump this year. It started in Rio earlier this year in June, the Rio Plus 20 Sustainable Development Conference, where the issue of sustainable consumption and production was put much higher up on the international agenda, with governments agreeing that they will set a 10-year framework of programs on sustainable production and consumption to address the issue of unsustainable consumption. And this goes further than looking solely at production issues, which is what we've been looking at and working with companies, and companies have been looking at their own resource use, but this extends to consumption, and not only the supply side, but also the demand side. So what resources are we demanding in terms of what we consume and how we consume? So this is very important that at the international level there's support for this, and national governments will start initiating policies in this area, which will then give support to new innovation and companies and products that are addressing resource use from the demand side.
And what have been the results? I mean, from an investor point of view, why would this particular initiative be so attractive?
Yeah, I mean, from the investment point of view, this is quite new. But what we're finding with our investors is there's an interest here, because in terms of impact investing, a lot of impact investing has focused on the bottom of the pyramid, or developing countries, and addressing particular sustainability issues, particularly development issues, and investing in, for example, microfinance. Now, sustainable consumption and policy and governments putting sustainable consumption higher on the agenda signals that there are also interesting investment opportunities, as this is a priority, interesting investment opportunities in developed countries where consumption is a huge issue. Not that it's not an issue, and it will become an issue in developing countries, but at the moment the key issue is in developed countries. So we're seeing very interesting investment opportunities here in Europe, and in areas like housing and helping people, the innovations in product, services, infrastructure that will help people to reduce their consumption of energy in the home, for example. We're also seeing infrastructure investment in mobility systems, so transport systems, again, that help us to reduce our dependency on single car use.
So is that predominantly because at the moment there is essentially more money in this particular initiative? Because in the developed, because I know that you've told me previously you've worked in developing countries, but this is more of an attractive offer because there is just more money in the developed countries. Is that
right.
where?
I mean, investors that are starting to get interested in impact investing are still worried about the risks, for example, in emerging markets. So investment opportunities in Europe that can also show significant impact on sustainability issues become really interesting for them. It's markets that they know, that they understand, they're used to investing in, and there's an opportunity for impact on issues that they care about. So this is why we see this as a particularly interesting development, and we expect this to be an interesting investment theme into the coming years. Okay,
they're playing it safe, essentially. Okay, so on the subject of impact investing, Cheryl, I mean, let's just take impact investing at the moment as a whole. I mean, is there an interest nowadays in impact investing compared to, say, 5 years ago or even 10 years ago? I mean, is it still quite risk averse? Is there even a market out there?
We're seeing absolutely increased interest, and because I think investors are starting to see now the duality of the financial impact on the one hand, financial returns. They're not having to compromise on financial returns, and they're also seeing impact on sustainability issues. So clean tech and the energy space was the first, and we are starting to see a lot of progress there. The other space is microfinance, and in microfinance, a lot of the banks, and here in Switzerland especially, especially, the banks have a lot of funds on microfinance, and they have a lot of investors invested in those funds, and so those investors that are seeing success in microfinance are looking for new products and new opportunities. And so as investors try out impact investing and start to see those dual benefits, then we're starting to get demand for new products, new themes such as sustainable consumption, for example, so not just energy, not just poverty alleviation and development issues, but also driving personal consumption and looking at personal resource use now. And they see this as a direct link also to security of supply of resources in developing countries.
Okay, and Cheryl, just finally, what can investors look out for future projects? Have you got anything in the pipeline?
Well, we say in our philosophy of impact investing that we're looking at the priority area. So where is capital most urgently needed, where access to capital had been restricted for whatever reason. And so we're looking at that international policy space in terms of sustainable development. Where are the urgent issues? Where is investment needed? And we try and prioritize our investments towards those issues. And sustainable consumption, we believe, is absolutely a priority issue.
Any region of the world at the moment that's particularly interesting?
There's many markets that are interesting. I don't know if I want to speculate there, but I think in terms of sustainable consumption, we see really interesting opportunities here in Europe.
Okay, so Europe for now then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl, for coming into the studio.
Thank you, Thomas.
That's all we've got time for Dukascopy TV today. Stay with us throughout the day for further updates and exclusive interviews, and of course we've got coverage of the Geneva Forex event, which will be broadcast next week. But for now, take care. Goodbye.